Hi guys, welcome to Simply Scuba. So in this week's comparison video, we're obviously looking at masks. So these two are relatively high-end masks. They've got very sort of funky lenses on them. So basically we're going to pit them against one another and see which is the best. So basically these two are sold as, so very high-end masks. Most of the technology is in the lenses, but they put a lot of sort of tech and cleverness into these skirts as well. So we're just going to do a direct comparison just to do sort of pros and cons for all the different bits and bobs so you can make a more informed decision. So I've got the Tusa Paragon mask and the Atomic Aquatics Venom Arc mask. So to start off with, Venom Arc, so this is a single lens design, so we don't have this kind of bridge sort of over the top of your nose, whereas the Paragon is a twin lens. That's very much personal preference. I've dived with both. I don't notice a great deal of difference. It's never really been a big selling point for me. But for people with a bit more pronounced sort of bridge over the top of your nose, it might be a sort of consideration because you do tend to have a little bit more sort of hardware just there on the mask. So that's something worth sort of looking at. As far as field of vision, so the Venom Arc is pretty good. You can see the top hand corners. You can see all of the mask sort of edges basically, but that is a decent field of vision. The nose pocket isn't too sort of obstructive. You've got a decent sized nose pocket as well. That wasn't touching anywhere, and it's very easy to grab hold of. With the Paragon, again, much the same, if a little less field of vision, I'd say. You can see a little bit more sort of the edge of the mask just around on your peripherals. So as far as general field of vision, I'll give the edge to the Venom, slightly larger sort of lenses. As far as size goes, actually, the Venom Arc is a smidge bigger, but we're only talking probably about 1 centimetre or 2. So not that much wider, but it does give you a wider field of vision. Now the silicone skirt is it's a nice soft silicone skirt. Of course, you've got the dual seal, 2 different colorways. So you've got the lighter grey sort of coming out of the black. So that's nice and soft. And this has a very sharp edge sort of on it. Not sharp that it'll be uncomfortable, but it just goes to a single point. Whereas on the Paragon, again, arguably softer, I'd say, but they've rounded the edge off a little bit, so that just makes it a little bit more comfortable. They've put arguably a bit more attention into the skirt, so with all these sort of dimples in the Freedom 2 skirt, it actually changes the sort of the hardness of the skirt, so it can stay rigid where it needs to stay rigid to keep its shape. But over the temples and around the cheekbones, you've got these dimples, and that just allows that section of the skirt just to move a little bit more freely. So it's a bit more of an effective seal. Moving around to the buckles, so the Paragon obviously is a framed mask. We've got this rigid frame, they call this Purimax. This has got sort of 3 different materials, and you've even got metal running through it. So it's got that much more sort of rigidity to it. But the buckle itself is attached onto the skirt, so that just means that's a bit more sort of flexible. You've got 5-way adjustments on this, so this is quite rigid. You've got that almost ratchet style, and that way your mask strap kind of stays in your preferred position. So wherever you want the back of the mask strap to fit, it kind of stays there, and you can move that just to make it more comfortable. Double pinch to adjust that, and we've got quite a large sort of gap between the 2 ratchets on the strap, so you can adjust it so it's nice and comfortable. But when we take a look at the Venom, we can see we've got a much closer, the teeth are basically much closer, so it's a bit more precision. You can get it instead of a single incrementation on this one. Then you've got 2 or 3, so you can get it just to the perfect adjustment. You've only got a single button to push on this to release that mechanism. If you need to thread and unthread, I believe I've done it on sort of both of these now, I'd give the, it's a lot easier to unthread the strap on the Tusa than it is on the Venom, because trying to get it back in, I always remember, was a little bit tricky, but you're only going to do that once or twice. So the buckle is attached again onto the skirt on this. The Venom is a bit more of a frameless design. There's a bit of a frame in there, but it's all kind of molded together to make it less bulky, but it's arguably a little bit smaller. And because that's still attached onto the skirt, it's got that flexibility, but it doesn't have that ratchet ability. So there's always going to be a little bit of tension if you want it a little bit higher up on your head. The straps themselves, very much the same, very traditional sort of two-strap design. I'd probably give the edge to the Tusa because it's a bit more rounded on the inside, so it's going to sort of sculpt to the back of your head, but there's not a great deal in it. They're both sort of pretty similar. On the inside, as far as internal volume, I'd say the Tusa, the Paragon, is a little bit lower volume on the inside, so it's going to be that much easier to purge all the way and to equalize. You probably won't have to equalize the Paragon quite as much. So as far as looks and feels, the Paragon is the newer mask. The Venom arc has been around for quite a while now, and it's always been a strong hitter for us. Aesthetically, I kind of prefer the Paragon. It comes in a few more different sort of colorways as well, so you can sort of customize it to your style. But as far as overall aesthetics and how it kind of looks and feels, I'm kind of leaning towards the Tusa. But let's take a look at the specs and compare them, because we've got different glass, we've got different sort of materials. Let's take a closer look at those. Okay, so now we're looking at the specifications, the real technical bit to it, because there's quite a lot of technology that goes into masks that isn't really seen. It's only once you actually physically get them and try them on is when you can actually kind of look and feel, but a direct comparison is always sort of very important. So looking at the glass, so the Paragon mask, so this has crystal view glass, and this gives it a slightly yellow tint on the surface, because it's got some sort of special coating in it, but they claim that this allows 95% of allowable light to sort of transfer through it, which is pretty good. That's a lot better than sort of most standard masks, because it's got fewer impurities in it. You know, as a normal glass, you get that kind of green tint if you look at the edge of it. If you actually get one of these lenses and look at the edge, it's quite colorless. So fewer impurities means for greater light transmission. Atomic Venom Arc has ultra clear Scott Super White, which actually allows 96%, and that's thanks to its sort of special coating. So the Atomic, the Venom Arc, so this has a anti-reflective coating on both sides, on the inside and the outside, so you have to be very careful when preparing it. So that at first you don't want to damage that coating, so use something very, very gentle, and this allows 96% of light to get through, so a little bit more is coming through, especially useful when it's when you're underwater, because that allows for all that light being absorbed by water. You need to get as much light as possible. As far as color, that's pretty true. A very slight yellowy tint, but nowhere near as much as the Paragon, so it's not going to be adjusting the colors quite as much. But now focusing on the coating, so the Paragon has a 420 UV coating, whereas the anti-reflective coating on the Venom is slightly different, and I have this very handy little prop. This is a laser pointer that sort of shoots out light at certain frequency of light. It's 420, I think it's nanometers or micrometers, but this is basically the dangerous wavelengths of light, the light that gives you sunburn and that can also damage your eyes. So if I shine this through the lens of the Atomic, you can see the laser pointer come straight through onto the table. So that's allowing that wavelength of light to come through it. If I do the same thing with the Paragon, the Paragon lens actually cuts it out once it's coming through. You might be able to see a tiny little blue dot. It does allow a little bit coming through, but actually when you're doing it outside of the lens, it comes through really strong. Straight through the lens, it cuts it out. So they're acting a little bit like sunglasses in that they're protecting your eyes from HEV, which is that damaging sort of wavelength of light. So especially if you're diving somewhere in sunny conditions, you've got the light bouncing off the waves on the top, you're just on the surface looking around, it's going to be protecting your eyes that little bit better. So on from that, so now we're moving on to the frame. So the frame on the Venom, this is what they call subframe. So it's kind of a blend between a frameless mask and a framed mask. There is a sort of a rigid bit of plastic, but just around that kind of edge. The silicone skirt is kind of molded onto it. So it's nice and hydrodynamic, it's not big and bulky, but you still get that kind of rigidity that you do from a framed mask. You've got a little section of what feels like metal just over the bridge of the nose, again just giving that sort of rigidity. It's quite smart, I quite like the design. It is quite a large kind of shape to it, but it's not big and bulky and sort of adding too much internal volume. Onto the Paragon, so this is a framed mask. It's very sort of separate. You've got the lenses, you've got the frame, and then you've got the skirt. You've got metal sort of running through it, giving it strength. You've also got polyurethane as well, and yes, these do come in different colors. So then we're moving on to the skirt. Couldn't find too much to do with the actual composition other than they're both silicone, but the Tusa, the Paragon comes with with that frameless 2 skirt, so lots of little detailing, sort of moving it around. It creates a decent seal, even with a moustache. The Atomic feels a tiny little bit stiffer, but it's still a soft silicone skirt. It's very moldable, so it's going to fit most faces. Still creates a seal, so I could still use it even with the moustache. So yeah, and it's comfortable as well. Some masks I find they can sort of be a little bit more sort of uncomfortable over the cheekbone, but both of these are fine. So other than that, then we're going to be looking at the RRP. So RRPs do change. So at the time of filming, the Tusa Paragon was 169.95 British pounds, and the Atomic Aquatics Venom Arc is 159 pounds on the nose. So a little bit more expensive, but you are getting that that sort of protective coating on the lenses. So that's really the main difference between these two. Okay, so boiling that all down, we're looking at the two. They're very similar in price. This one's £10 more, but you are getting those protective lenses. As far as comforts, this is a personal thing. It might just be my face shape. I find the Paragon more comfortable. It's just that little bit softer against my face, but that might just be my face. A lot of people have different face shapes, so that's personal preference. As far as overall field of vision, the Venom does have a wider sort of field of view, and it doesn't distort the kind of colorways that sort of protective lens. The Paragon gives you that kind of yellowish tint that I know your eyes will adjust to a little bit, but the Venom frameless is more true to what you will actually see, especially on the surface. But I'm leaning towards the Paragon. It's that little bit more expensive, it's about £10 more, but you're getting those protective lenses, so that's protecting your eyes, which are very important. A lot of our diving is done in sort of bright conditions, especially if you're diving somewhere nice and tropical. So I'm leaning towards the Paragon as the winner on this one. The Atomic Venom frameless arc, very nice mask, but for a little bit more, you can get that Paragon and get those protective lenses. But of course, let us know in the comments below what your favorite mask is and why, and what mask you use and why. There are plenty of them out on the market today, but of course, let us know and let everyone else know which mask you use so they can make a more informed decision. Which is your favorite mask? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching and safe diving.
We are an online dive store serving the UK and the world for all your diving equipment needs. So why not visit us at simplyscuba.com or click the box on your screen.